months later, Blizzard have nailed the War Within with the most exciting feature. Oh man, what is this? What's he got in the delves? I hope it's not delves. Let's see what this is all about from Bellular here.
Welcome back, in this case to a video I'm very excited to bring you because on Alpha, delves were a bit threadbare. They were unchanging, and for many people the prospect of doing them over and over again for an expansion was kind of soul-destroying. Nobody said it was going to be full Torghast. It's not like there's anything in this expansion like, say, Soul Ash or Soul Cinder.
Yeah. The one thing that delves are slightly concerning to me in terms of I think Blizzard's like worried too much about making sure our classes and specs are optimized to be able to do delves. I'm not into that. I just want delves to be a side piece of content. But the one good thing that's different from Torghast and delves is that they're not going to be required. You don't need them to create a legendary or anything like that. So you can do these as much as you want, and mostly it's going to be about cosmetic rewards and stuff like that.
Was never
there is power progression to be had out of these, but you don't have to do them to get that power. You can do Mythic Plus or something else.
But it was hard to imagine a version of this that people would enjoy doing twice, 3 times, never mind a few times every week for an entire season or more. And a lot of that was down to
Mythic
difficulty. It was down to them being in a very early state in the alpha. And at even press events and things like that, talking to other creators, the chit-chat was always, I can see there's some cool things here. These environments look rather nice, but you know what? We're all a little bit worried this will just be Island Expeditions.
Right.
So here's the good news. Beta is out, endgame content is in, and...
I do want to say real quick, Island Expeditions had a lot of potential. I think the screw-up with Azerite armor and the fact that the entire team basically had to go fix that shit kind of left Island Expeditions to just go to the wayside. But those things had a lot of potential, man. They could have been really cool, and they were fun early on. They just never got iterated on because Azerite armor took the team's attention.
And thankfully, Blizzard have actually proven us wrong. So let's dive into it with the help of today's sponsor.
We'll see.
Forgetting about a subscription really stings, and I know that because guess who's been charged for Star Wars The Old Republic for like over a year or two since I made a video on it. Whoops. The good news is Rocket Money is here to help in situations like this. Rocket Money is a personal finance tool that helps you lower your bills, stay on top of subscriptions, and manage your money. And you can get started with them for free today at rocketmoney.com/Bellular Warcraft. On the topic of subscriptions then, Rocket Money will securely and safely identify recurring charges for you. When that's done, you can cancel them in just a few taps, which is super convenient. So if that's the sort of thing that's been on your to-do list,
probably
good news is Rocket Money can allow you to just action on that immediately. What about your bills though? I mean, do you want them lower but you don't want to spend your life listening to on-hold music in their phone line? Well, you can upload your bills and Rocket Money will help negotiate them for you, which is a killer time saver and potentially money saver too.
Yeah.
They do a lot more as well, like helping you budget, and so far they've saved their customers up to $740 a year with over 500 million in cancelled subscriptions.
Wow.
So if you want to save more money and spend less money, you can join the over 5 million members using Rocket Money today at rocketmoney.com/Bellular Warcraft, or of course just by clicking the link in the description to get started for free. And once you've done that, you can unlock even more features with premium. That's rocketmoney.com/Bellular Warcraft to get started today for free. I'll start with the basis of what I'm talking about today. Every delve is live and updated on the beta, except for a hidden boss room they're not testing, and we've played them all across a range of difficulties and specs. The verdict is they are good, real good. If Mythic Plus is too intimidating, if raiding takes too long, but you still want to play World of Warcraft for the actual gameplay, then you very well may play these more than anything else.
That's the good thing about it, is it's really an alternative to other types of gameplay. It's not a must by any means. It's a nice way to gear out quickly, maybe, or to give you some variety in terms of, okay, you've been grinding out Mythic Plus for a while, go do something else. Or, like you said, it's a way for people who are maybe more casual. People who don't want to grind down Mythic Plus and do all that shit, or people who don't have time to raid. They can go do delves now, which seems like it'll be a nice alternative.
And the best way to prove that is to get straight into what we got wrong, or at the very least, the fears that I think most of us in the community had that have ended up not coming to pass. So one of the very early concerns was variety. The first few that we got to try on the alpha were basically just hold the W key and kill some mobs in caves, with very little unique traversal mechanics or things to even pay attention to. Right. The very first one that they used to introduce this whole system is just a quick jaunt into an earthen mine full of Nerubians. The second one nearby, at Creek Val's Rest, is a quick jaunt into an earthen mine full of kobolds. But then we got into the Fungal Folly and Mycomancer Cavern, and just look at them. Gorgeous, overgrown caves, lots of colour, lots of mushrooms. You see the Nightfall Sanctum and Hallowfall, that's a lovely open area within the zone. There's the Underkeep, which is a Nerubian research facility. There's the Sinkhole and Takrathan Abyss,
cool.
which are these undersea kind of nightmare water levels, but in a cool way. And then the Waterworks, which is this massive earthen water system that needs to be cleansed of poison. So lots of really good visuals there. Cool. That's all well and good, but it's not just the aesthetics. The mechanics and the vibes differ. Take Krigfells, right? It was initially interesting because it had this candle mechanic where basically you carry around a candle and the candle dims with each step that you take. If the candle goes out, you start to lose max HP, and that actually matches how the candles work in the whole Kobold Darkness dungeon. That's actually really cool. We did a video on a while ago.
Keeping the candle lit, that's a pretty cool mechanic.
Testing, each candle lasted so long that the mechanic may as well just not exist. And all the fire traps were super easy to dodge. They felt pointless, but in the beta build, there were more traps, better traps, and the candle duration was low enough that unnecessary movements could actually become a problem. It transformed.
Oh, damn. The problem is I have issue with moving a lot when I fight pointless movement. And I know I do it too. I'll run in circles to hit shit. I'll move back and forth a lot or jump around a lot. Damn, so I have to limit myself on that. It's based on, I didn't realize it's not just a timer, it's based on how many steps you take. Oh, shit.
Into something
That's
going to
be, I'm going to have to break some bad habits.
Almost every delve has got something like this, some sort of mechanic that you've got to play around, like, say, Nightfall Sanctum's Ballista Travel. Yeah, Ballista Travel.
That's cool.
The Mushroom Caves have got bouncy mushrooms, the Sinkhole and Abyss, which basically have got their whole underwater thing, but instead of swimming, you're running on the sea floor, you're going across perilous pathways, fighting off deep, spooky ocean life. Of course, if you're
running on the sea floor, it's kind of like the new trading post item that we just talked about for July, where you can get the heavy boots that allow you to run on the sea floor. That's pretty cool.
Druid, a warlock, or an undead, that's
I didn't even know that was a thing
really
here.
Shine because you've got a way to ignore needing to breathe. That just makes your character feel really cool. Others, though, have got to be sure to touch the air bubbles to refill their breath. It's just this kind of design philosophy that basically extends across the entire Delve system. They feel like properly designed gameplay spaces from, I don't want to say a real video game, as if World of Warcraft isn't a real video game, but so often in a game like World of Warcraft and MMOs generally, things end up being a little bit uninspired. It is just kill a bunch of mobs, get their health to 0, that's it. Whereas here we're seeing more environmental interaction, and that is really positive. Now, any delve with an objective that's click the thing, be that rescuing a lost ally or something, that of course will benefit druids and rogues with their stealth. Some, like the Underkeep, are really well suited to classes with loads of crowd control and AoE. There's plenty of creative platforming that of course the demon hunters and the evokers might be able to do in places with loads of verticality in their design. There's just lots of possibilities for being sneaky and I suppose shining by actually using all your mechanics.
Nice.
Now, our next big worry was having to do the same.
The one thing that I'm okay with, and some people aren't, is I'm okay with certain classes being good at certain things. I don't think every class needs to be good at everything, and that was a design philosophy that Blizzard has gone back and forth with a lot. Is giving every class the ability to interrupt and do shit and self-heal maybe, and then taking it all away because they want classes to be more special. And I hope they stay with that philosophy. I hope delves don't make people complain to the point where they start giving everybody everything again. So in terms of some classes and specs being better at certain delves, I'm cool with that. I don't mind it at all. I think everyone's going to be able to do the delves. But yes, some will be a little bit better at certain mechanics than others. And I think that's fine. I don't want every class to be the same.
Over and over again. That still will be a bit of a problem, but they have really tried to fix that. So first of12 delves is just a lot of delves, but they've also made sure that each have got rotating objectives and events. Earthcrawl is the best example. On Alpha, all we did is run in, save the Earth, and just go through it, kill the boss, and done. Very easy. So it was a very welcome surprise when on the beta, a Lamplighter NPC met us and asked us to go through the delve, burning the webbing instead of avoiding it. That's great, especially when, rather than having to free more dudes in the big room, we instead were ambushed by Nerubians and we had some wave defense to do. It was just a bit of variety.
Yeah,
Yes, the
sick.
same delve, but you're literally doing different things inside it. The other thing then is this seasonal affix. In this case, Zekvir, Hand of the Harbinger. So he's actually the boss of the hidden 13th delve, and he's a pain in the ass the whole way through. The higher the tier of delve you do, the more he influences enemies in the delves by giving them new abilities and buffs. And
Oh,
I mean,
damn.
look at this footage, right? Just getting embarrassingly destroyed by two of his lieutenants. And they're actually dangerous. This guy's a threat, and that means that taking him down will actually feel good. Which gets me to the next point. A major concern is this would just be boring because the enemies didn't really do that much. Well, now, it's actually almost the opposite problem. At higher difficulties, it's intense. But I'd say it's intense in the best way. You are asked to focus for each mob pack that you pull. Enemies have got
That's okay.
frontals, casts, buffs, debuffs, most of which could give you a real challenge if you're undergeared or you're not prepared to play.
Yeah.
Casters consist.
Sounds like the Mage Tower. Mage Tower was super intense, and if you were undergeared, it was even more intense. You had to pay a lot of attention to it, but players liked the Mage Tower. It was a nice little challenge, and you know why? Just like this and what I talked about earlier, it's not required. You can go get gear from somewhere else. Like if you have trouble in the delve and you can't get past a certain level, you don't have to be just stuck there and bash your head into a wall. You can go find gear in other places, come back, and then do the delve again. Or, better yet, just get good. There's that option too. So this is good. I like that. That is a little bit challenging.
Off damaging casts and the occasional extra painful curse, poison, or some other debuff, so learning to prioritize your interrupts and your stuns will be important. Melee consistently will throw out like AoE cones, bleeds that you can dodge or outrange, so your movement matters. In every delve, using your defensives, using your healing, your crowd control, and all available utility is important, and it makes you feel like, yes, your character is powerful, but also that you're powerful as a player, because you're overcoming a challenge with the tools that your class gives you. Going to bosses, they're not super complicated, but they do tend to have at least one or two mechanics in combination that feel fun enough to play around.
Sounds
As
good.
an example, here's the Spiral Weaves boss who sets up spikes and then chases you into them, all while summoning painful but tiny adds that you've got to crowd control and blast down. So that stuff's pretty good. And it's not an insane stretch to describe these as Mage Tower style mini dungeons.
Yep,
Your
that's what I
first
just
run
said.
of a delve at a very high tier could be a bit sweaty while you're trying to learn how everything works. But once it clicks, every run after is buttery smooth. And it's buttery smooth because, like, say, a player who really understands their class, their spec, their teammates, and the Mythic Plus dungeon they do, I mean, in that case, you look at a bunch of pros playing, and it's pretty amazing, right? All of these things that are normally a challenge, they just cleanly go through them.
Yeah.
Well, you can actually do that in the context of something that is solo gameplay compatible, and that is a dead satisfying thing. Now, of course, if you would rather just have a more chilled out experience, there is actually good news there, because for gear, you only have to go up as high as tier 8 of 11 to max out your gear rewards. The ones after that are just optional hard modes that you can do for prestige, achievements, and that
It
sort.
wasn't like the maximal gear you could get from delves, like heroic level rating gear. That's what I thought. I could just be pulling that out of freaking nowhere, but for some reason that's like what's coming to my mind is like it was heroic level rating gear, which would be really cool.
Now, on the beta, our characters
pretty
are
damn good.
scaled to the minimum recommended gear level. That very much does impact the experience in testing, so whenever you're, I don't want to say under-geared, but when you're appropriately geared, these do feel like a really enjoyable challenge. Now, of course, that means that with that level of gear, once you've done them a few times and you've learnt them,
Yeah,
it is
they'll become
comfortable
very
and
easy.
it is fun. Once you get more gear and more practice, I think a tier 8 will be an easy thing.
Yeah.
The best thing here, though, is if you do want to push for those higher tiers, there is no cost of entry, there is no penalty for failure, except for maybe 15 minutes of lost time, because the way it works is these have a death counter. And
Right, but he's saying that, but don't you have to like get a key or something to do these delves? I'd like we had to do back in Dragonflight with that freaking what the hell that was, that vault thing. So wouldn't you technically break a key if you just go do random delves that are too high for you?
once you're out of
I
lives,
thought there was
you
some
don't
kind of
get
key
kicked
system
out.
for this.
You can still finish it and get most of the rewards. You just won't get any of the bonus cosmetic rewards or unlock the next tier.
Okay,
So
yeah.
that is definitely a lot more friendly than, say, failure in a Mythic Plus dungeon. Now, it's not all perfect, and there are some criticisms.
Or like Visions of N'Zoth. Remember we had to like get a bunch of shit to be able to do a Vision of N'Zoth. So if you like fucked it up, it kind of felt bad because then you have to go get all the shit to do another one. I think there's
So
that
some
same
of these are
system,
deep, some of these we can expect to be fixed. Now
which
the
I personally
fundamental
don't
ones are
like.
core Warcraft problems. There's lots of unavoidable damage, right? That's just the way it is. You can't perfectly dodge, roll, and parry everything in WoW. So that is where some of the difficulty comes from. If you just don't have an answer for like a CC immune boss punching you in the head till you die, then maybe just get more gear. And that won't feel great to some people.
Right.
Maybe a caster chain casting a bunch of spells that are hitting you for a quarter of your health bar. Maybe that ends up being a problem if you're, say, a shadow priest or a balanced druid.
Right.
Because you don't have loads of interrupts. Or maybe in the Underkeep, right? Where you're maybe stuck in a circle with loads of tiny mobs and you don't have AoE burst or you don't have AoE stun. Some classes will excel, others will struggle.
I'm sure there'll
And I
be.
guess that's the nasty.
There will be like specific delve build outs for every spec. Like, oh, this is the best way to do a delve as a holy priest. I can't imagine doing it as a holy priest, but yeah, there's going to be certain specs that
You
work
gotta
best.
give him the hawk towel. And just spit on that thing. Screw. You Sam, you dirty little Canadian rat. Hey, who am I kidding? I always hear. I guess you could say you just love to hate you less than 3 less than 3.
Absolutely wonderful.
There are just going to be
Thank
some
you for that,
hardish rules
Moishi.
on which specs and classes get to have the most fun and the most progress in delves. Like in our testing, Enhancement Shaman, Rat Paladin, and Feral Druid won with tons of
Haktui that
CC,
shit.
loads of burst damage, dispels, and self-healing. Now, the other issue is range classes, except for Hunter, I think have a much worse time. I mean, being mostly clothies, they take way more unavoidable damage from auto attacks, and they're nerfed pretty hard because you've got to dodge mechanics and you cannot cast while you move in most cases. Tanks, of course, will be able to laugh their way through the damage until they hit hard DPS
Yeah,
checks.
blood DK
And as for
can heal
healers,
through
honestly,
shit.
don't bother. Delves were just an exercise in frustration when tried on a holy priest, as an example, but very much the opposite, a total joke on a prot paladin, because they do often feel like half-invincible superhero protagonists. And in a way, that's the rub. WoW, as a game, ends up suiting melee more and more in terms of gameplay feel.
It's
and
very
that's
melee-centric
evident in
right now.
content like this. I think some rebalancing of mob damage could go.
It's evident when you go into a raid right now. It's not just because Fearlath is the legendary, which is a melee weapon, and a lot of people want to use the legendary, so they're playing melee. It's because it's just very melee-centric right now. It feels like the game is kind of built for that. But I think Blizz got to be careful a little bit in terms of how they're how much things are starting to favor melee.
A long way here. Another potential issue then is RNG with buffs that spawn. There are chests which give you buffs, and some of them are just super strong right now, like double max HP or a proc that gives you a chance for an AoE stun with loads of damage. Now those could end up being the difference between success and failure. So again, that will depend on what sort of player you are, because for some people, they play, say, a run of a roguelite game, they don't get amazing luck, they don't really get to complete their build, but they kind of understand that's the way that genre sort of goes and they can roll with the punches. If you feel like, though, the reason why you cannot progress is because you just didn't get one buff to spawn, that could be frustrating. What all of that
would
stuff
be.
is,
Yeah,
for the
by
most
the
part,
way,
though, is fixable, and they have a
I did see mages are going to pop off. Yeah, I'm sure warlocks are too. It's never been about the DPS numbers. I think it's just been about which is easier to play, and it feels like melee is right now.
lot of feedback in the forums to help them out. Now that is about it. Beyond some obvious bugs and some, mechanics and balance that just need tightened up, delves are actually proving to be way more fun than we could have dared hope after seeing their first iteration. Even Bran Bronzebeard as a companion, with his hints of lore dialogue and his mechanics, things like summoning an egg you can break to release a dinosaur in your enemies, him using old relics from places like Uldum to heal, that stuff.
One of the cool things about Bran too is he's supposed to get stronger, right? And that like strength, or as he gets better and he's able to do more with you, that carries over all your warband characters. Like he's a account bound toon basically. So he's gonna help you more in delves as you do catch up with other toons and shit.
Stuff's a lot of fun. It's a shame he feels useless as a DPS, but that's something that is on Blizzard's radar to fix. So look, I can say fundamentally with the scaling that they're giving players on beta, where you have appropriate gear, these really can shine. Of course, when you put this into a game with gear, yes, eventually these will end up being a cakewalk. work, but as compared to lots of other similar types of content, these do appear to be more rewarding. And I think big picture, the design is way tighter than some of their past endeavors have been. So that means that from where we're sitting right now, this actually looks like a new major back-of-the-box feature that is going to be a pillar of World of Warcraft's endgame, taking up, of course, 1/3 of the Great Vault. Yeah, it's actually good. Essentially, that's the situation with Delves. I am not saying you should pre-order based on this video, and I'm not saying these are going to be absolutely amazing when you get to play them on live, because it is not live yet. Things could change, balance could break it, but so far, they're actually a real strong showing. So touch wood, we should actually have a new gameplay-driven pillar of World of Warcraft, a back-of-the-box feature for this expansion that actually does seem to deliver the goods.
Cool.
That's a pretty exciting prospect. So that's it for today's video. If you want to check out something cool next, well, hit up this video where we dive into a whole bunch of the new UI features that are coming with The War Within. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you over there.
Yeah, cool stuff about Delves. The one thing that's slightly concerning about the testing of them is that Blizzard's kind of giving them gear that's appropriate for the Delve level they're doing. So that kind of takes away the disbalance of if you're under-geared or over-geared and how the Delve is going to feel then, because that's certainly going to happen more often than not. We're going to either be under or over-geared in terms of the Delve that we're running. We'll have to see how it plays out. In terms of the content itself, the only reason why I'm like really okay with it and I think it's a good idea is because it's optional. It's an optional way, it's a variety way to get more gear, and I'm always fine with that. Give us more ways to get geared, more options on how to play the game, and just let us pick. Let us pick. Don't force us to do things. That was why Chorgas was called what it was. Everyone was forced to do that shit. Nobody liked that. But cool stuff about Delves. We'll have to see how they actually turn out.